Hello, thank you for watching my channel today. My name's Sarah and my channel is called Your True Self. Today I'm going to be doing a video about the TBR books that I would like to read in autumn, and this is a very ambitious stack of books, as I'm sure that we all do as booktubers, that our eyes are bigger than our bellies in terms of what we think we can read and what we want to read and what we actually read. Well, I've just gone for it and picked up a load of books that are on my physical TBR. And when I think about books for autumn, I think about comforting reads, cosy reads, historical fiction, like old houses, ghostly stories, all of those kind of things. So that's kind of what I've got a mixture of in this pile. Before we start, so first of all, I've been ill for about a week. I'm much better, but I've got a tickly cough and I've got like a bit of a cold. So I've got some tea here. I've got a mug of butter toffee popcorn tea from Bed and Blend. I may well have to keep taking sips just because my throat's going to get dry and then I'll start coughing or sneezing. And second of all, I just want to acknowledge the passing of the Queen, because this is, I think, my first video since that's happened, and the funeral. And I have a very sort of mixed view. I don't want to go into like my personal opinions about the royal family or the monarchy or anything. I have mixed views, but I do want to like obviously mark the passing of the Queen on this channel and not say anything about it. So just wanted to say that as part of my introduction today. So let's move on to the books. So I'm just gonna pick them up in a random order. I have no plan what order. I'll try and mix them a little bit so we're not talking about the same book, you know, the same genre of book on repeat. So the first book that I've picked up is The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. So I think that everyone would agree that The Secret History by Donna Tartt is one of the sort of seminal autumnal dark academia works, and this is another book by Donna Tartt. This is her most recent book, The Goldfinch. I've seen the film of this and really enjoyed it. And this is basically about a little boy called, what's his name? Theo, who has gone to a gallery with his mum, and a bomb goes off in the gallery. His mum is killed, and he takes this picture, this sort of famous painting of the goldfinch. He takes it, and it's about how that painting sort of shapes the rest of his life. And it's set in New York, and so it was the winner of the Pulitzer Prize in 2014. I'm sure it'll be amazing because I loved the film, and I'm sure the book's better than the film, and I really enjoyed her writing in The Secret History as well. The second book that I have is a middle grade book, which is Goodnight, Mr. Tom by Michelle Magorian. This book, just like the colours, are very autumnal, aren't they? And this is a book which was written in 1981, and I like books that were written in the past, and this is set at the onset of World War II. I also like books set in that time period as well. And this is following a young boy called Willie, and he has been sent from quite a deprived and sounds like a quite abusive mum in London, and he's gone to live with a chap in the country called Tom Oakley. And I think he starts to flourish and have a much better life with Tom, and then he's called back to London again. So that's his adventures. I think I first heard about Heather. I think I first heard Heather talk about this book, and she made me really want to read it, although she did say it's quite traumatic in parts from what I remember. But you can't get a more autumnal colours really, can you, for that one? The next book is also quite autumnal looking, and this is a ghostly story. So this is The Little Stranger by Sarah Waters. So I have lots of Sarah Waters books, but the only one that I've read is The Night Watch, and I absolutely loved The Night Watch. And this is The Little Stranger, as I said. I've also seen the film of this one already, and I really enjoyed the film. The only thing is a bit annoying is that it does, I'm guessing, spoil quite a lot of what's going to happen in the book. But so this is about an old, crumbling, falling down house in Warwickshire. Yeah, Warwickshire. And this is about the mum and her two children who are grown up who live there. And the house seems to be haunted, and they call in a doctor to sort of help with the funny goings on in the house. And it's about their story and how their family story and the house and his story all link together. But I remember it was quite creepy and gothic in the film, and so I really want to read more of Sarah Waters' work. I'm sure it'll be wonderful. Next is a book by one of our own beloved booktubers and one of my favourite booktubers, and this is The Sister Who Wrote Her Brothers by Jen Campbell. And this is a beautiful hardback edition illustrated by Adam D'Souza, and it has a ribbon and it has just lovely end papers inside, and it's really gorgeous. So this is retellings of different gruesome tales from around the world. So we have Korea, Ireland, Japan, Norway, Nigeria, Russia, South Africa, India, China, like lots of different places. I'll just read the back to you because I can very much hear Jen's voice in my head when I say this. Welcome to the forest. This is where the stories live. They've been breeding in the dark for hundreds of years. Let me show them to you. Here is the man who likes to eat children. Here is the castle that screams in the night. Here are the souls trapped under the sea. This book contains 14 gruesome tales from around the world. Shall we take a closer look? Take my hand, follow me. We don't want you to lose your way. I think I'm going to read this for the kids if they don't find it too scary. It's got some lovely illustrations inside as well. So we'll see if we'll try it with them. If they find it too scary, I will read them on my own. Next, I have a book which I've never seen talked about on BookTube before, but I have talked about it once or twice, and this is called Cashelmara by Susan Howatch. So the reason that I came to have this book is that my mum had this when she was a teenager, I guess. This was published in 1978, and once I remember we were sorting out the loft in our children's childhood home, and mum had a box with some books in, and my brother picked this book, not this actual one, but mum's version of Cashelmara from the box, and he started reading it, and he read it so many times. He used to read that book, this book, and Dracula over and over again, and he'd finish one and then start the other one, and he'd just keep reading them. And so I've heard a lot about this, how wonderful this book is. I think it was my brother bought me this version several years ago, and I haven't read it yet. This is sort of spooky old house vibes again. So we're following a chap called Edward de Salis, and he is a widower, and he never talks about his wife, and he never talks about his Irish home, Cashelmara. And then he meets a young American woman called Marguerite, who he goes on to marry, and he starts talking freely to her about both Cashelmara and his deceased wife. And then as she comes to the family home, she's sort of drawn into a family which is divided by like sort of love and hate, and also towards murder and retribution. So this is again giving me kind of gothic, haunted, sort of old crumbly house vibes, and it's a really good big book, and I am a fan of reading big books in autumn as well. Next, I have another middle grade book which is astonishingly beautiful, which is the reason that I bought it in the first place, and this is The Hatmakers by Tamsin Merchant. So not only does it have absolutely beautiful front and back covers, but I'll show you the actual hardback because it's just absolutely beautiful as well. So underneath we have another beautiful cover and end papers. So this is a delight, and as soon as I saw it, without even knowing what it was about, I bought it last year and haven't read it yet. So let's discover what this is about. So basically, if I can get it back together again, here we go. This is following Cordelia Hatmaker, and she is from a family which makes magical hats, cloaks, boots, scarves, gloves, those kinds of things. And her dad has gone on an expedition to collect some magical ingredients, and his ship is lost at sea. And Cordelia is determined that she wants to go and find what's happened to her dad. But the rest of her family, her older relatives, are sort of distracted because they are currently trying to stop a sort of a war developing between different hatmaker communities because somebody seems to be using magic in a bad way. So that's that one. Next we have a fantasy, a dark academia type book, and this is one I bought last year as well. This is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This is set in a school, a magic school. This isn't a children's book though, and it's basically the only way that you can get out of the school is to either die or to graduate. I think there are no teachers, there are sort of evil and monsters and things in the school. And we're following Elle Higgins, who is our protagonist, and she doesn't really have any friends, but she has dark, strong powers, and she is trying to use them in the right way without harming any of her fellow students unless she has no choice. So dark academia I'm always up for, and another beautiful cover. I know that this is in a series, and I know that the next one is out now. So looking forward to getting started with this. And then putting out another beautiful book, we have The Hobbit by J R R Tolkein. So I read The Hobbit at school, but I don't remember whether I finished it or not. I remember sitting in lessons and reading it, but I don't remember whether we finished the book or not. So I treated myself last year to this beautiful edition of The Hobbit in hardback, and it's also got the maps in the front, at the back. I'm really looking forward to reading this sort of classic fantasy book, and I'd like to read the Lord of the Rings trilogy after this, but we'll start here. Then I have a very beautiful book which my children bought for me one Mother's Day, and it's not a novel, it's like a collection of sort of poetry and pictures. This is The Lost Spells by Robert Macfarlane and Jackie Morris. This is the most stunning book. So it's got these absolutely beautiful drawings throughout, as you can see. And then we've got little pieces of prose to go with each drawing. So absolutely gorgeous, and I think I'm going to find the drawings like super inspiring because they're so well done. And again, I'd like to try and read this with the children and see if they get on with it as well, because it's just sort of the kind of thing you can read at bedtime and talk about the pictures and sort of read the lovely little prose and stuff as well. The next book that I bought quite a while ago, and I've recently heard Ruby Granger talk about how much she loved this book, which has sort of really brought it to the forefront of my mind. This is The Binding by Bridget Collins. Again, look at the cover, it's absolutely stunning and very sort of autumnal feeling again. And this is about a bookbinder by the name of Emmett Farmer. And Emmett bookbinds people's stories, so things they want to forget or a secret, then he can bind it within a book. And he one day finds a book with his name on it, and he doesn't know what's bound in there. And so it's a sort of a magical mystery type book, I believe. And I got this second hand. It's in really good condition and it's very beautiful. We seem to have a special guest who's just made an appearance.
I'm really scared. I don't know what to say. Hi! Cut!
Our next book is one that I saw mentioned by Louise Savage, and this is The Way of the Flesh by Ambrose Parry, and this is set in Edinburgh in 1847. We're following a surgeon called Dr. Simpson, his medical student Will, and his housekeeper Sarah. Will is working with Sarah, who also is just as intelligent as Will but doesn't have the privileges of being a man, and they are basically, when there's some murders which are going on in Edinburgh, then Will and Sarah are sent to sort of recover the bodies, because they use the bodies for anatomy, to learn anatomy through dissection, and I think they get drawn into sort of like a dark underworld because of this. So yeah, this sounds really creepy, and I'm sure my mother-in-law would also love this book. This is a library book. The next book I've got was a recommendation from Christiane Jones. This is one of her previous books of the year, and this is House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. I think I've also seen Sian from Pastory Time talk about this book. This is about the three sisters called the Hollow Sisters, and when they were children, they went missing for a month and they came back unharmed, but they had no memory of what happened to them for the whole time they were away. And since they've been away, there's kind of some ghostly kind of voices and things which are happening to them and which are getting stronger. And I think one of the sisters is then disappears again, and the younger sisters have to try and find out what happened to her and are drawn back towards the horror of 10 years ago. So another striking cover. Next is a beautiful book which I bought in the Waterstone sale last year. This is a fantasy book called The Winter Garden by Alexandra Bell, and look at the cover. I've got so many beautiful covers amongst these books. This is following a young lady called, I keep forgetting the protagonist's name, it's called Beatrice. She's 8, and on the night that her mother dies, she stumbles across a secret winter garden where there's all sorts of flora and fauna, and it's just magical, and it's only there for that night. And then when she is in her early 20s, she is on the eve of her wedding night, and she's due to marry a man that her dad wants her to marry but she doesn't love, and she decides she wants to go and start looking for the winter garden again. And it's just, yeah, it looks really cosy and wintry and beautiful. I have the conclusion to a series here which I think everybody has read apart from me, and this is the last in the His Dark Materials trilogy. This is the Amber Spyglass, and I have this really gorgeous foiled special edition set. Now, Heather, if you're watching this, we buddy read books 1 and 2 together, and I feel like a really long time's lapsed since then, but do you want to buddy read the third one? Because if you do, shall we do it? I kind of feel like maybe I want to reread books 1 and 2 first, because they're not that big, and I feel that I want to make sure that I'm fully immersed in the world and what happened in the world beforehand before I go straight into book 3. And I'm thinking that series 3 will be out on TV sometime around sort of Christmas, New Year maybe, because we've already had series 1 and series 2 based on the other 2 books. So let me know if you want to do this as a buddy read, no pressure. It's absolutely fine if you don't want to. I have a book which looks really, really heart-wrenching, and this is Pax by Sara Pennypacker, and another beautiful cover. This is a middle grade book, and this is about a boy called Peter who has looked after Pax as a fox cub all the way through to Pax's adolescence or adulthood. And basically the war is coming, and his dad says he has to leave Pax by the side of the road and drive off, which is already making me feel really sad. But foxes and autumn are kind of synonymous, aren't they? And I'm hoping, as it's a children's book, that it will have a happy ending. So I'm really looking forward to reading this, even if it might be really sad. The final children's book I have on my list is the 4th, I think, Pages & Co book, which is Tilly and the book Smugglers by Anna James. So I've read all of the series. I think book 5 has just come out. I've got them all in hardback apart from the first one, which is really annoying because the first one I got from the library. So anyway, that's beside the point. These are really magical books, and they always have really lovely covers underneath the jacket as well. This is following Tilly and her best friend, and they basically can book wander, which means that they can go inside the pages of books, and characters can come out of books and come and visit them, and there's sort of a dark underworld which is trying to stop book wandering happening. And Tilly and her best friend Oscar, I think, are trying to sort of navigate the perils and things of book wandering, and these are so cosy and so lovely, and I really recommend these. I find that children's books can provide so much joy for me that I understand if people don't think they like children's books, but I would encourage people to give them a try. Next I have Tithe by Holly Black. I've never read Holly Black. I know she's extremely popular on BookTube, but I haven't read her before. And Tithe is a modern tale of the Fae, and this is about a girl called Kay who is she travels around. Her mum is a musician, and they have a life travelling around together. Her mum is forced to return to their childhood home, where Kay used to see fairies, and the fairies are still there when she goes home, but this time she's dragged into their dangerous and frightening world. So yeah, it sounds like kind of a dark, scary fairy tale, which is cool. I have a classic next, and this is Villette by Charlotte Bronte, which I've never read, and I bought this edition secondhand really recently. It's very beautiful, and I feel like I said that for every single book cover so far, but they have all been very beautiful. I think having a kind of a historical classic is another really sort of autumnal thing to do. This is about Lucy Snow, who leaves England to go and teach on the continent, and she goes to a place called Villette to teach at a girls' boarding school. And she is sort of isolated and lonely, and she's trying to sort of overcome the difficult behaviours of her students. She's overwatched by a Madame Beck, who is her employer, and Madame Beck is trying to drive a wedge between her and one of the professors called Paul Emmanuel, who she is starting to fall for. So that one I look forward to. This one sounds fascinating. This is Pandora by Susan Stokes-Chapman. So sorry about the shininess, but it's just their library book cover. I pre-ordered this book. This is one about a young woman set in 1799 in London, and it's about Dora Blake, who lived with her uncle, and her parents had a shop of antiquities, and one day this vase comes to the shop, and Pandora is very intrigued by this vase, and she thinks it may make the shop improve, and she enlists the help of a scholar and academic who is called Edward. He thinks it's the key to something bigger, and he wants to use it to discover that, but should they be leaving well alone, basically? Are things going to change forever once they find out about this vase? And I think she's also trying to escape her uncle. So that sounds amazing. Next, I have a book that I've had for quite a long time now, and this is The Magicians by Lev Grossman, which is the first in a trilogy, I believe. Here we are following Quentin Coldwater when he goes for an interview at Princeton University, and he finds his interviewer dead, but there's an envelope on the desk with his name on it, and when he reads it, he is drawn into this to a different world of magic. And it's quite idyllic, but it can't last. And so I feel like magic and anything sort of to do with that. And this seems a little bit maybe dark academia as well. Anything like that is cool for autumn. And I've had it for a really long time, so it'd be nice to get to it. My penultimate book is one that I was lent by one of my colleagues at work, and I haven't really seen anyone talk about this. This is The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. So this is about a little girl called Esme, who hasn't got a mum, but she spends her life with her dad whilst he is trying to assemble the first Oxford English dictionary. And one day she sees a slip of paper which flutters out of the dictionary and lands on the floor. And she secretly begins to collect words for a dictionary of lost words. But she has to do this by journeying into a world on the cusp of change as the Great World War looms and women are fighting for the vote. So again, I just feel like anything to do with sort of scholars and academia and stuff is very sort of September-ish and lovely. And then the final book that I'm going to mention is one that I've already started, so I'm just going to go and grab it. Last book is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke, which is the biggest book on the list. This is about 1,000 pages. Just over 1,000 pages. I saw Christiane Jones reading this, and she's the one who made me want to buy it because I love her reading vlogs and her reviews. I'll link her channel down below. She read this and she said it's one of her favourite books ever. And Susanna Clarke wrote Piranesi, but this is very different to Piranesi. And I am this far through, so that much through. And I started reading it earlier this year. I had to put it down, I think, to read a book club book, I think. And then I decided to keep it on pause until autumn because I think it would be a great book for autumn. So what's it about? Well, it is about two magicians, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and they're basically trying to bring magic back to London, and it's set in 1806. So it's set in the time of the Napoleonic War. And first of all, we're following Mr. Norrell. He's quite sort of stuffy and old-fashioned and academic, and he is basically doing magic and not really relishing in it too much. And I think we've got much more enigmatic, young, handsome Jonathan Strange, who is going to be introduced to us as another magician, and I think they have to work together. So I'm really looking forward to reading some more of this. So that is my enormous list of autumnal books that I've owned. I'm sure I could have pulled off more from my shelves, but I obviously can't talk about every single book, because we'd be here all day. If you've read any of these books, then it'd be really nice to know what you thought of them and which ones I should prioritise over others. If you've got any other autumnal reads which are your favourites, I'd really like to hear about them. Or if you've got any autumnal plans or anything like that you'd like to share, that would be lovely as well. I will look forward to speaking to you all soon. Have a lovely week. Bye.